in this vlog reflection, I'm gonna answer the 4 questions that are included in the assessment task. So the first one, what's the educational importance of HPE? The way how I understand this question is to firstly look at the historical involvement of health and physical education in the past, so that it helps me to see the differences and having a comparison between what's in the past and what's the contemporary approach of health and physical education. So, physical education has been used for the purpose of survival, social control, military purpose, and citizen education from the time of the ancient Greeks. It was seen as a way to solve current public health issues and largely emphasized on one's physical ability and performance rather than the educative outcome. And it was based on the deficit view of health, for example, looking at the risk factors rather than the protective factors. And moving on to the 1980s, the social views of health were becoming more on the trend, and which is known as social cultural perspectives of health and physical education, largely owing to Ottawa Charter. So the multidimensional nature of health was increasingly argued by the literature, and now we have and there's a huge long involvement in the between, but due to the time constraint, I'm going to jump to the contemporary approach of health physical education to talk about the educational importance of the learning area. So the need for individual and collective action and the influence of social, cultural, and physical activity and personal development are starting to be merged in the contemporary approach. So the historical landscape helps us to see what's so important about the contemporary approach, and thereby to interpret the vision of the 5 proposition helps me to understand what is the educational importance. And referring to what McDonald said in her article, what is educationally important about health and physical education? We should focus on how the HPE learning area help to nurture the skills, knowledge, and understanding for students living in the 21st century. So, the health and physical education learning area supports students to make informed decisions about their health and well-being as a precursor to healthy lifestyle features. Students need to be health literate. In particular, the 5 proposition explains as such. First one, it focuses on educative outcome, which directly moves from what was being really emphasized in the past to solve the public health issues to a more contemporary approach, saying that health and physical education is not the cure for the health problems of young Australians. Rather, it acts as the bonding agent across other propositions and brings together curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment in HPE context. Moving on to the strengths-based approach, sorry about my body language, focuses on context, inclusion, and diversity. It recognizes the importance of people's environments and the multiple contexts that influence their lives. Learning in through about movement, from my understanding, it's really intertwined with strengths-based approach and educative outcome, as it focuses on developing students' competencies in fundamental motor skills. As a result, they are more likely to participate in physically active pursuits in adolescence, thus making childhood particularly critical and health physical education really important. And health literacy, it aims to equip individuals with ability to gain access to, understand, and use health information and services in ways that promote and maintain health and well-being. So, children learn to be physically literate and health literate in and through health and physical education. For example, students acquire movement, language, words, and nonverbal communication skills in the physical education setting, and they learn to read and interpret the movements and nonverbal language of others. As a result, the interconnected relationship between educative outcome and health literacy are evidently shown. Last but not least, the critical inquiry. It is an approach that involves pedagogy of questioning, the underlying assumptions in daily lives, as well as the reasoning and the problem solving. Sorry that I'm reading the script the whole time. When combined with health literacy, another central element contributing to the educative purpose of the curriculum, it not only helps to promote individuals' capacity to understand and act on health-related information, but also develops awareness of influences the contextual factors play on individual behaviors, as well as understanding towards cultural diversity and other social justice issues. So, the interrelated and complementary factors of the 5 propositions in the end aims to support students in the 21st century to acquiring the knowledge, skills, and dispositions to advocate for and positively influence their own and others' health and well-being, and developing movement skills, concepts, and strategies to confidently, competently, and creatively participate in a range of physical activity. So, as what is stated in Melbourne Declaration on Educational Goal for Young Australia, the educational importance of health and physical education learning area is to develop all young Australians become successful learners, confident, creative individuals, and active and informed citizens. Alright, so question number 2. What are some considerations when selecting and using a health education resource in your teaching? So while we were planning, we need to make clear distinctions between what is required by curriculum and what is recommended. Taking learning in, through, and about movement as an example, the resource should not only allow students to develop fundamental motor skills, more importantly, how does the resource unpack the 5 propositions aligning with educative outcome and strengths-based approach to develop students with the skills, knowledge, and understanding to gradually have the intrinsic motivation and the values as they are participating in the movement, in the physical activities. So that's the kind of things we need to bear in mind when we are selecting a resource. Second, the resource chosen should strengthen the alignment between curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment. Considering the intertwined nature of the 5 propositions, the activity should not solely address a particular curriculum standard. Rather, while we were planning, we were seeking to combine general capability and cross-curricular priorities as a whole to embed it into our lesson planning so that students have a wide range of opportunities to develop not just what is required by the learning area, but also what is really important for students to, the kind of skills they need to have in order to have the skills and knowledge and understanding they need for living in the 21st century. And question number 3, how do students learn in, about, and through movement? To allow students learning in movement, from my understanding, it refers to experiential outcomes where students directly acquire knowledge, understandings, and skills as a result of thoughtful participation in physical activity. For example, applying tactics and strategies in a game, or appraising the physical capacities and requirements of an activity. Learning about physical activity refers to a rational form of inquiry, where students directly acquire knowledge and understandings as a result of studying and participating in physical activity. For example, examining the impact of gender stereotypes on participation in physical activity, or planning psychological strategies for pre-match preparation. Learning through physical activity refers to instrumental outcomes, where students indirectly acquire understandings, capacities, and attitudes as a result of studying and participating in physical activity. Examples including increased physical fitness, aesthetic appreciation of a performance, and continued participation in the physical activity. Finally, question number 4. How does your unit plan development demonstrate your proficiencies of the 2 graduate standards? I think the 2 I chose in for this question is ASO Standard 2.2, Content Selection and Organization, and 5.1, Assess Student Learning. To elaborate, the reason why I think I really have developed the skills in content selection and organization is, in the beginning, while we were planning for the entire unit, we sort of approached in a backward way, which is a really well-known field in China, and we were trying to understand what is really important by the end of the unit by looking at the kind of assessment or the achievement standards from the curriculum to see some relevance and some indications for us while we were planning the unit. And also by engaging with the readings and the literature review, authentic assessment has been really widely used in the HPE learning area. So we were also kind of looking for this element to be embedded into our unit planning. Then we moved on to activity selection to particularly look for those, as I mentioned earlier, that can really unpack 5 propositions and demonstrate, and allows the students to demonstrate those kind of skills and understanding by having the activities in place to link back to our assessment. In terms of the pedagogy, our entire unit is really about the inquiry-based learning and the authentic learning experiences students should have, ranging from outdoor physical activities to the excursion, as well as the activity they created allows them to bring back home where they can play in the yard with their friends at home, all that kind of things. By having those kind of ideas in the first place, we were trying to use a more student-oriented kind of approach, which is constructivism, to facilitate the carry out of the unit. For the curriculum, the way how we approach this allows us to map in the curriculum standards in the end, not in the first, to see what was required, which is commonly done in the classroom teaching. So we understood how should the assessment be carried out, as well as what is really important, the kind of resources in the web or on the field that allow students to develop those kind of skills and understanding knowledge they required. Then we have the curriculum mapping process, which is the selection and the organization of the learning. I guess the reason why I think I really developed this teaching standard, not developed, but grasped the requirement of this teaching standard, is that we are not particularly looking at what is required by the curriculum in the first place, but rather we are seeking to understand what is important for the students. Also, like in an imaginary setting, if I am the actual teacher in the school, I need to think about what is really important for the kids at my school, departing from the strengths-based approach as well. So the contextual factors and all that kind of the broader thinking of health physical education really helps me to think about what is important for the kids, then moving on to the curriculum mapping, then having the pedagogy in between to link all those things together. For the second teaching standard, 5.1, assess student learning, the reason why I think I sort of have developed that kind of skills required by the ASO is that we were departing from the importance of assessment, or what is really important for the students, then link back to the pedagogy and curriculum. But before that, before all the curriculum mapping and pedagogy selection, we were actually thinking about the accountability of the assessment, as well as the kind of skills and understandings and knowledge students need to have throughout the unit or at the end of the unit, as well as how can we really develop an authentic assessment that allows students to bring in what they know from their home life and what they have been developed throughout the unit all together as an assessment piece. So the inquiry-based learning, as I mentioned earlier, brings what they learned in the beginning, which is from the lesson 1 to 4, and connect to the assessment parts of the unit, lesson 8 to 10, all together, as it serves as a purpose of students to launch their own questions and plan for their own investigations through the excursion, as well as the reflection, how they can incorporate the social elements of the physical activity and understand how we can strategize or how we can develop an activity to unpack that kind of social understandings by having the empathy towards others' difficulty of doing whatever the physical activities. So we were also having the focus on the social and interpersonal skills, as well as the intellectual quality skills embedded in the assessment piece. We are not just primarily focusing on what was stated earlier in the past, the performance or the ability of physical activities. So that's how I was initially trying to approach how I approach the unit planning, from the backward design, what is important for the students, that kind of conceptual understandings to inform the unit planning, and the way how we assess it really reinforce the alignment between assessment, curriculum, and pedagogy as a whole. So thank you for watching and bearing my accent at the same time. I really enjoyed this semester, and thank you. Hope you have a great semester break. Thanks.